There are people whose backs have become bent with age, whose hands tremble as they hold a cup of tea, whose footsteps have become slow and careful. We look at them and assume that time alone has made them weary. But often, what has truly exhausted them is not the passing of years. It is the invisible burden they have carried inside their hearts for an entire lifetime. A burden that no one else could see. A burden that never appeared in photographs, never showed up in medical reports, and never announced itself to strangers. Yet every single day, it quietly shaped their thoughts, their choices, and their ability to experience peace. Some wounds leave scars on the skin, others leave scars on the mind. The scars of the body fade with time, but the scars of memory often become sharper because the mind revisits them again and again. A painful word spoken by a parent decades ago, a betrayal by someone deeply trusted, the loss of a loved one before there was a chance to say goodbye, a mistake that cannot be undone, a dream that never came true. These moments may belong to the past, but for many people they continue to live in the present because they have never truly been released. Think about how strange the human mind can be. It can remember a single moment of humiliation from 50 years ago with astonishing clarity, while forgetting hundreds of moments of kindness that happened during the same season of life. It can replay one painful conversation thousands of times, each replay adding another layer of suffering. The event happened only once, yet the memory continues to happen every time the mind returns to it. Without realizing it, many people become both the prisoner and the jailer of their own memories. As the years pass, people often believe that time itself will heal every wound. They wait for decades, hoping that old pain will simply disappear. But time does not erase what the heart continues to protect. Memories that are fed with anger, regret, guilt, or resentment do not grow weaker. They become deeply rooted, like the roots of an ancient tree hidden beneath the ground. From the outside, life appears ordinary. Inside, those unseen roots continue to influence every emotion, every relationship, and every expectation. A person who was betrayed long ago may struggle to trust even those who genuinely care for them today. Someone who grew up believing they were never good enough may carry that belief into old age, even after raising a family, building a career, and earning the respect of others. Another person may replay a single mistake made in youth so many times that they forget the countless acts of goodness they performed throughout the rest of their life. The mind quietly magnifies pain while shrinking everything else. This invisible weight is not measured by how dramatic the original event was. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from moments that others would consider small. A child repeatedly ignored, a sincere effort never appreciated, words spoken in anger that echoed through the years, a promise broken, a friendship suddenly ended. The heart does not calculate pain the way the world does. It simply remembers what touched it most deeply. Many people become so familiar with their suffering that they begin to mistake it for their identity. They no longer say, "I experienced pain." Instead, without noticing, they begin to believe, "I am my pain." The memory becomes woven into every story they tell about themselves. Every new disappointment is connected to an old wound. Every fear is strengthened by a past experience. The mind builds invisible chains from yesterday and quietly wears them into tomorrow. Old age often brings longer moments of silence. The responsibilities that once kept the mind occupied begin to fade. Children grow up, careers come to an end. Daily routines become simpler. In this quietness, memories that were buried beneath years of busyness begin to rise once again. Faces long forgotten appear vividly in the mind. Conversations from decades earlier return with surprising detail. Regrets that seemed asleep quietly awaken. Many elderly people are not only sitting alone in a room, they are sitting with every unresolved memory that has followed them through the years. The greatest tragedy is that the original event may have lasted only minutes, hours, or days, while the suffering created by remembering it has lasted half a century. The people who caused the pain may have already changed, disappeared, or even passed away. The places where those events happened may no longer exist. Entire neighborhoods may have been rebuilt. Generations may have come and gone. Yet within the heart, the emotional echo continues as though nothing has changed. The body has grown old, but the wound inside still believes it is living in the day it was first created. The mind has an extraordinary ability to protect what it believes is important, even when what it protects continues to cause suffering. It clings to painful memories because it believes that holding on will somehow prevent future hurt, preserve justice, or keep alive someone who has been lost. Yet what it often preserves instead is exhaustion, bitterness, fear, and loneliness. The burden grows heavier, not because life keeps adding more pain, but because the heart never learns how to gently set down what it has been carrying for so many years. One of the greatest illusions the human mind creates is the belief that the past is still alive. It convinces us that yesterday can somehow reach into today and steal our peace. It whispers that if we think about an old wound long enough, we might finally change what happened. So the mind returns to the same memories over and over, searching for different words that could have been spoken, different choices that could have been made, or different endings that never came. Yet every journey into the past ends in exactly the same place. Nothing changes except the amount of suffering we experience in the present moment. This is one of life's quiet truths. The past has no power of its own. It cannot move. It cannot grow. It cannot knock on your door or speak your name. It exists only as memory. The event itself is gone. The people have changed. The places have changed. Even your own body is no longer the body that lived through those moments. Every cell has been replaced over the years. Time has carried everything forward. What remains is not the event itself, but the picture the mind continues to hold. Imagine holding a burning piece of charcoal in your hand for decades. Every day it burns you, yet you refuse to let it fall because you believe that dropping it would mean denying that the fire once existed. But releasing the charcoal does not erase the fire. It simply ends the burning. In the same way, letting go of painful memories does not mean pretending they never happened. It means refusing to allow them to continue hurting you long after the moment has passed. Many people confuse remembering with reliving. Remembering is natural. Every human being carries memories. They are part of the story of life. But reliving is different. Reliving means allowing the body and mind to experience the same pain again and again as though the event were happening right now. A single memory can cause the heart to race, the muscles to tighten, the eyes to fill with tears, and the spirit to grow heavy. The body responds to an old story as if it were facing a present danger. Think about how often this happens without notice. A familiar song begins to play, and suddenly you are transported back 30 years. You pass a certain street, and forgotten grief awakens. You hear someone's voice, and an old argument begins replaying inside your mind. The present moment disappears, replaced by scenes that no longer exist anywhere except within your own thoughts. Without realizing it, you have left today and entered a world that vanished long ago. This is why so many people suffer twice. First, they suffer from the original event. Then they suffer from carrying that event through every season of their lives. The first pain may have been unavoidable. The second pain is often created by the mind's endless habit of returning to what cannot be changed. Every replay strengthens the emotional pathway. Every repetition teaches the mind to visit that memory more easily the next time. Over many years, the habit becomes so automatic that a person no longer realizes they are choosing to reopen the wound. There is another quiet misunderstanding that keeps people trapped. Many believe that if they stop thinking about their pain, they are somehow dishonoring the people they lost or ignoring the injustice they experienced. They fear that peace means forgetting, but peace is not forgetfulness. Peace is seeing clearly. It is recognizing that love does not depend on endless sorrow, and justice is not created by endless resentment. A heart can remember with wisdom instead of suffering. It can honor the past without becoming imprisoned by it. Acceptance is often misunderstood as surrender. People hear the word and imagine giving up or approving of what happened. Yet acceptance simply means seeing reality as it is. It says, "This happened. I cannot rewrite it. I cannot exchange it for another story. I cannot return to that day." These words may sound simple, but they carry extraordinary freedom because they stop the endless struggle against something that no longer exists outside the mind. The mind naturally resists acceptance because it believes control brings safety. It imagines that if it keeps analyzing the past, it will eventually discover the perfect explanation or the perfect solution. But some questions never receive complete answers. Some apologies never come. Some relationships are never restored. Some dreams remain unfinished. Waiting for the past to become different is like standing beside a river and demanding that yesterday's water flow back toward you. Old age teaches this lesson more clearly than any other stage of life. The years reveal how quickly everything changes. Faces once young become lined with age. Homes once filled with laughter become quiet. Children become grandparents. Friends disappear one by one. Seasons continue their endless cycle without asking permission from anyone. Change is not an exception to life. It is the very nature of life itself. The more we resist this truth, the more we suffer. The more gently we accept it, the lighter the heart becomes. There comes a moment when a person begins to realize that the greatest battle was never against the events of the past. The greatest battle has always been against the mind's refusal to stop living inside them. The memories may continue to appear from time to time, but they no longer have to become places where the heart chooses to live. For many people, the hardest part of healing is not facing the memory itself. It is believing that they are allowed to let it go. Somewhere deep inside, they have accepted the silent belief that holding on to pain proves their love, protects them from future hurt, or keeps justice alive. They fear that if they release their resentment, they will somehow erase the importance of what happened. Yet this belief quietly transforms suffering into a lifelong companion, convincing the heart that peace is something it no longer deserves. Releasing is not the same as forgetting. Forgetting belongs to the natural fading of memory, something over which we have very little control. Releasing is a conscious decision. It is choosing not to allow yesterday's wounds to continue deciding how today will be lived. The memory may remain, but its power begins to fade because the heart no longer feeds it with anger, guilt, fear, or regret. Think of a traveler carrying a heavy bag across a long journey. At first, the weight seems manageable. As the miles pass, the shoulders begin to ache. The knees become weak. Every step requires more effort than the one before. Yet instead of putting the bag down, the traveler keeps adding more stones to it. One stone is resentment, another is self-blame, another is disappointment, another is the longing for an apology that never arrives. After many years, the traveler forgets what it feels like to walk freely. The burden has become so familiar that it feels like part of the body itself. This is how emotional pain often grows. The original event may have placed the first stone into the bag, but the years that follow often add many more. We replay conversations that ended decades ago. We argue with people in our imagination who are no longer present. We punish ourselves for mistakes that our younger selves made with less wisdom and less understanding. We compare our lives to dreams that were never meant to unfold. Slowly, the heart becomes filled not only with the pain of the past, but also with the suffering created by refusing to loosen its grip. One of the deepest forms of release is forgiveness. Yet, forgiveness is perhaps the most misunderstood word in the human experience. Many believe forgiveness means declaring that what happened was acceptable. Others think it means pretending the wound never existed or inviting harmful people back into their lives. Neither is true. Forgiveness does not erase responsibility. It does not deny injustice. It does not rewrite history. Instead, forgiveness is the quiet decision to stop allowing another person's actions to continue controlling your inner world. It is saying, "You have already taken enough from my life. I will not give you my remaining peace as well." Sometimes the person who needs forgiveness is not someone else. It is yourself. This can be even more difficult because the mind often becomes its own harshest judge. It remembers every mistake with painful clarity. It whispers that you should have known better, acted differently, spoken more wisely, loved more deeply, or made another choice. Even after decades have passed, it continues replaying old failures as though punishment could somehow rewrite them. But consider this carefully. The person who made those mistakes no longer exists in the same way. The young man who acted out of fear has become an old man shaped by experience. The young woman who spoke in anger has lived through countless seasons of learning. Every year has changed your understanding. Every hardship has deepened your wisdom. Judging your younger self by the knowledge you possess today is like criticizing a child for not seeing with the eyes of an elder. Compassion must eventually turn inward. We often find it easier to forgive strangers than ourselves. We understand that others act from confusion, fear, pain, and limited awareness, yet we refuse to extend that same understanding to our own lives. A heart that cannot offer itself compassion remains trapped in endless conflict. It keeps reopening old chapters instead of allowing them to become part of a completed story. Gratitude also has a remarkable ability to loosen the grip of painful memories. This does not mean being grateful for suffering itself. It means recognizing that even difficult experiences have shaped qualities that comfort never could. Patience often grows through hardship. Wisdom often emerges from failure. Kindness is frequently born from knowing what it feels like to suffer. Many people discover their deepest strength only after believing they had none left. When the mind focuses only on what was lost, it overlooks everything that was gained through endurance. The pain may have taken something precious, but it also revealed resilience, courage, humility, empathy, or understanding that otherwise might never have developed. Life is rarely divided into moments that are entirely good or entirely bad. Often, the same experience that broke the heart also opened it in ways that later allowed it to love more deeply. There is another quiet truth that becomes clearer with age. Every emotion that is held tightly eventually begins to hold us in return. Anger demands constant attention. Resentment asks to be remembered every day. Guilt insists on endless punishment. Regret whispers that happiness must wait until the impossible becomes possible. These emotions behave like uninvited guests who slowly take ownership of the house because no one ever asks them to leave. Releasing them is not a dramatic event. It is rarely a single moment when everything suddenly disappears. More often, it happens through countless gentle decisions made day after day. Choosing not to replay the same argument. Choosing not to blame yourself for what cannot be changed. Choosing to breathe instead of react. Choosing compassion over condemnation. Choosing to see your life as something greater than its deepest wounds. Each small choice removes another stone from the burden you have carried for so many years, until the heart begins to remember what it feels like to move through life with quiet lightness. There comes a moment in every human life when the future slowly becomes shorter than the past. The calendar still turns, the sun still rises, and the seasons continue their endless dance. But something inside begins to change. A person who once looked ahead with endless plans now begins to look behind with quiet reflection. The mind naturally wanders through the roads already traveled, remembering childhood, youth, friendships, love, mistakes, victories, losses, and countless ordinary days that once seemed insignificant. In these moments, one question becomes more important than any other. What kind of heart do I wish to carry through the final chapter of my life? Many people spend their younger years chasing success, wealth, recognition, or security. They believe these are life's greatest treasures, yet old age has a remarkable way of revealing what truly matters. A large house cannot silence a restless mind. A full bank account cannot remove decades of regret. Awards and achievements cannot comfort a heart that is still imprisoned by resentment. As the body grows weaker, the value of outer possessions begins to fade, while the condition of the inner world becomes impossible to ignore. This is why two people of the same age can live completely different lives. One may possess very little in material wealth, yet radiate calmness, kindness, and gratitude. The other may have accumulated everything society admires, yet remain trapped in bitterness, fear, and disappointment. The difference is rarely found in what they own. It is found in what they continue to carry within. The greatest wealth available in old age is not measured in money, property, or reputation. It is measured by the lightness of the heart. A peaceful mind allows ordinary moments to become extraordinary. The warmth of morning sunlight feels richer. The laughter of grandchildren becomes more precious. A simple meal becomes enough. The sound of birds, the gentle breeze through the trees, and the quiet companionship of another human being become gifts that were overlooked during busier years. Peace changes not the world around us, but the way we experience it. Many people postpone inner peace because they believe there will always be another opportunity. They tell themselves they will forgive later, they will rest later, they will appreciate life later, they will let go when the time feels right. But life has never promised anyone unlimited tomorrows. Every sunrise is a gift that arrives without guarantee of another. The older we become, the more clearly we understand that time is not something we possess. It is something we are continually receiving and continually losing at the same time. Imagine reaching the final days of life while still carrying the same anger that began 40 years ago. Imagine looking back and realizing that a single painful memory quietly stole thousands of beautiful days that could have been filled with love, laughter, friendship, and gratitude. How many sunsets passed unnoticed because the mind was staring backward instead of outward? How many kind people were kept at a distance because old wounds whispered that trusting again was too dangerous? How many moments of joy slipped away because regret insisted on replaying a story that had already ended? The final chapter of life invites a different way of living. It asks us to become less concerned with proving ourselves and more concerned with understanding ourselves. It asks us to replace judgment with compassion, hurry with presence, and fear with acceptance. The world may continue moving quickly, but the heart no longer needs to race alongside it. There is quiet strength in slowing down enough to truly see the life that still remains. Presence becomes one of the greatest gifts of old age. For much of life, the mind is pulled between memories of yesterday and worries about tomorrow. Yet peace exists only in the present moment. This very breath has never existed before and will never exist again. This conversation, this sunrise, this quiet afternoon, this smile from a loved one, each appears only once before becoming part of memory. A person who learns to fully inhabit the present no longer feels as though life is constantly slipping away, because they are finally living where life is actually happening. There is also a beautiful responsibility that comes with growing older. Younger generations watch more than they listen. They observe how elders respond to disappointment, loss, illness, change, and uncertainty. A peaceful elder leaves behind more than possessions. They leave behind an example. They teach that dignity is possible even in weakness, that kindness can survive hardship, and that wisdom is measured not by how much knowledge a person possesses, but by how gently they carry their heart through life's changing seasons. In time, every name will eventually be spoken for the last time. Every photograph will become part of history. Every accomplishment will belong to another generation's memory. These truths are not meant to create fear. They are invitations to live with greater clarity. When we recognize that nothing external can be held forever, we naturally begin investing in what cannot be taken away so easily. Compassion, patience, generosity, understanding, forgiveness, and the quiet joy that arises from a heart no longer burdened by yesterday. Peace is not something waiting at the end of life as a reward for growing old. It is something that must be chosen while life is still unfolding. It grows each time we release another regret, soften another resentment, offer another act of kindness, or accept another part of our own imperfect journey. Little by little, the heart becomes lighter, the mind becomes quieter, and the remaining days become less about counting how much time is left and more about honoring each moment that has been given, allowing every breath to become a gentle reminder that the most meaningful legacy any person can leave behind is not the wealth they accumulated or the titles they earned, but the peace they carried within themselves and quietly shared with everyone whose lives they touched.